Have you ever felt abandoned by your own children? You raised your children with love, always by their side when they needed you. But now, it feels like they barely care anymore. Maybe the phone calls are becoming less frequent. Maybe plans to meet keep getting cancelled at the last minute. Or maybe, when you do talk, their words feel distant, cold, almost as if your presence doesn't matter to them anymore. And you wonder, did I do something wrong? That feeling, it hurts. But if you respond with anger or sink into sadness, things will only get worse. Instead, there are smart, subtle ways to regain respect, rebuild your connection, and most importantly, maintain your dignity without begging or blaming. Today, I'm going to share 8 powerful actions that many parents have successfully used to reconnect with their children. And here's the exciting part. Number 5 could completely change the way your child treats you. If you've ever felt this way, stay with me, because what I'm about to share might just change the way you see everything. Let's dive in. Lesson 1. Don't react with anger. Pause and reflect. Think back to the last time you felt ignored by your child. Maybe you called and they didn't pick up. Maybe you checked in on them only to receive short, uninterested responses. Or worse, maybe it was the impatience in their eyes, the coldness in their voice, as if your presence no longer mattered. That hurts, doesn't it? As parents, we've sacrificed so much. We've spent our entire lives loving and caring for our children. And then, one day, they grow up and seem to forget the person who was always there for them. That feeling of being overlooked, of being taken for granted, it's not just painful, it's heartbreaking. And when those emotions hit, how do you react? Many parents lash out in frustration. Do I even matter to you anymore? After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. Do you even remember how hard life was for me when I was raising you? But does this actually change anything? No. The truth is, the more anger you show, the more you lose their respect. William's story, When Silence Speaks Louder Than Anger. William, a retired teacher in his 70s, had taught thousands of students, shaping countless young minds. But when it came to his own children, he felt powerless. They were busy with their own lives, rarely visiting. Phone calls became infrequent, and when he reached out, they would either miss the call or respond half-heartedly. One day, after several unanswered calls, William was furious. He wanted to pick up the phone and yell, "Do you even care about me anymore?" But he didn't. Instead of letting his anger take over, he stepped outside and took a walk in the nearby park. As he walked, memories flooded back, his years in the classroom, the sleepless nights preparing lessons, the moments he spent teaching his kids how to ride a bike, how to treat others with kindness. And then, he realized something profound. His worth wasn't defined by whether or not his children called him. William refused to let negativity control him. Instead of blaming or begging, he decided to live for himself. He joined a book club, reconnected with old friends, and started writing his memoir, something he had always wanted to do. And then, something unexpected happened. One day, his son, Robert, called out of the blue. "Hey Dad, how have you been? I noticed you haven't called me in a while." It was only when William stopped waiting and focused on his own life that his children naturally started reaching out again. The lesson for you: if you ever feel unappreciated by your children, remember, anger won't earn you their respect. It only pushes them further away. Silence, when used wisely, is more powerful than complaints. Your worth isn't measured by your child's attention. It's found in the life you create for yourself. So take a page from William's book. Pause, reflect, and stand firm in your dignity. And as you begin to rebuild your own life, you'll discover that respect isn't something you ask for. It's something you cultivate through the way you live. What's next? If anger isn't the answer, then what should you do? You need to build a new life for yourself. Find your own purpose, instead of waiting for your children to care. And that's exactly what I'll share in the next part. Stay tuned. Lesson 2. Build a new life. Rediscover your purpose. Have you ever noticed that happy, energetic people have a special kind of magnetism? They don't have to chase after attention. People naturally want to be around them because of their positive energy and independence. The same principle applies to the relationship between parents and their children. If you feel abandoned or forgotten by your kids, maybe it's time to ask yourself, am I truly living for myself? Waiting by the phone, hoping for a call, feeling sad when they don't visit, none of this will change the situation. Instead, you need to find a new purpose and build a fulfilling life for yourself. Eleanor's story, when happiness becomes a magnet. Eleanor, a woman in her 60s, once had a home filled with laughter, love, and family. But after her husband passed away, everything changed. Her children visited less often, and phone calls became rare. At first, she didn't think much of it. But as time went on, loneliness became her new normal. She spent hours sitting by the phone, waiting for a message, a call, something. Then one day, she had a realization. I can't spend the rest of my life just waiting. That morning, she made a decision. She stopped waiting. She started doing. She stepped into her garden and began tending to her flowers. At first, it was just a way to pass the time, but soon, it became her daily joy. She joined a gardening club and met new friends. She started cooking new recipes and shared meals with her neighbors. She signed up for a senior yoga class and rediscovered the joy of movement. And then, one day, something unexpected happened. Her daughter, Lisa, called out of the blue. "Mom, you seem so much happier these days. What's your secret?" After months of no contact, Lisa was the one who reached out first. Eleanor was no longer a mother waiting for a call. She had become a vibrant, joyful person her children wanted to reconnect with. Why does this work? When you live a fulfilling life, you become more interesting to your children. A happy, confident parent with their own activities doesn't emotionally depend on their kids for validation. When you stop obsessing over, "Why don't they care about me?" your children will feel more at ease talking to you. The better you live, the more your children will want to be part of your life. Think about it. People naturally want to be around those who inspire them. No one enjoys conversations filled with guilt, complaints, or emotional demands. So where do you start? You don't need to make big changes overnight. Start small. Do something that genuinely brings you joy. If you used to love reading, pick up a book again. If you enjoy music, learn an instrument or join a choir. If you like being active, try yoga or go on walks with a new group of friends. Remember, happiness doesn't come from your children, it comes from within you. And here's the surprise: when you are truly happy, your children will naturally come back to you. Because strong relationships aren't built on emotional demands, they grow from natural, meaningful connections. But here's the important part. Once your children start reaching out again, how will you respond? Will you use that moment to strengthen your bond? Or will you unknowingly push them away again? This is where the art of mindful communication comes in, a skill that can heal old wounds without a single word of blame. And that's exactly what I'll share with you in the next part. Stay tuned. Lesson 3: Skillful communication. Avoid blame. Express genuinely. The relationship between parents and children is not only affected by physical distance but sometimes strained by words spoken without much thought. Many parents simply want to express their feelings, but the way they communicate can make their children feel pressured or judged. Imagine this. One day, after a long time without contact, you decide to call your child. You wait, but no one picks up. You try a second, then a third time, but still, there's no response. How would you feel at that moment? You might feel frustrated or even saddened. And when your child finally calls back, your first instinct might be to say, "Why don't you ever call me anymore?" Be careful. This kind of statement may push your child further away rather than bringing them closer. Your children may love you, but they don't always realize that you need their attention. And when put in a position where they have to justify themselves, they tend to withdraw rather than open up. So how can you communicate effectively, making your child want to talk to you more without feeling pressured? Richard's story, when a letter changed everything. Richard, a retired carpenter, once had a very close relationship with his son, David. But after David got married and became busy with work, their conversations became less frequent. At first, Richard didn't think much of it. But as weeks turned into months without a single call from David, he started to feel forgotten. Every time he called, the line was either busy or went unanswered. For the first time in his life, he felt invisible. One evening, overwhelmed with sadness, he almost picked up the phone and said, "Do you even remember me? Why haven't you called in so long?" But he stopped himself. He knew that if he said those words, David might feel guilty, but that wouldn't necessarily make him call more often. Instead of blaming, Richard decided to write a letter. I miss our conversations. I just want you to know that I'm always here and always proud of you. No accusations, no demands, no pressure. A few days later, Richard's phone rang. It was David. Dad, how have you been? I'm sorry I haven't called in a while. Work has been so hectic. By simply expressing his feelings in a gentle way, Richard reopened the door of communication with his son. Why does this approach work? Avoids making children feel overly guilty. When children feel blamed, they may experience pressure, leading them to become defensive or avoidant. On the other hand, if you simply express your feelings sincerely, they won't feel forced but will reconnect willingly. Encourages connection instead of obligation. When someone feels criticized, their instinct is to distance themselves. But when you create a warm and gentle atmosphere, your children will naturally want to be closer to you. Creates a comfortable environment for communication. When children aren't put in a position where they have to explain themselves, they'll find it easier to open up. Sometimes, just hearing your voice without any pressure or blame will make them want to call more often. How to communicate more skillfully. If you want your child to feel comfortable talking to you, try adjusting the way you phrase things. Instead of saying, "Why don't you ever call?" say, "I miss you. How have you been lately?" Instead of saying, "You're always busy and don't care about us." say, "We're so proud of you for working hard on your career." Instead of sounding disappointed or sad, share something fun or interesting you've done recently. Let your child feel at ease when talking to you, rather than feeling guilty. But good communication doesn't mean accepting everything. There will be times when children aren't just distant but also disrespectful, being short-tempered, indifferent, or only reaching out when they need something. So how can you maintain respect in the relationship without hurting yourself? As children grow, they learn how to treat others based on the boundaries you set. If you don't want to be taken for granted, teach your children to respect you, starting with the way they interact with you daily. And that brings us to the next important lesson: setting clear boundaries while maintaining love in your relationship. Lesson 4. Setting clear boundaries. Respect yourself first. One thing many parents don't realize is this: the way you allow others to treat you determines how much they respect you. If you always put your children's needs above your own, if you're always willing to sacrifice without any limits, you might unintentionally be teaching them that your time, energy, and emotions don't matter. But setting boundaries doesn't mean being selfish. It means you love yourself enough not to accept being disrespected by anyone, including your children. Margaret's story, when one refusal changed everything. Margaret was a retired nurse. She had spent her entire life taking care of patients, and even in her later years, she continued to play that role in her family. Her son, Thomas, was a busy man with a demanding job and a family of his own. Whenever he needed someone to watch his kids, he would call his mother, not with a polite request, but at the last minute, expecting her to be available immediately. At first, Margaret always said yes. Even when she was tired, even when she had her own plans, even when she wanted some time for herself, she still agreed. Initially, she believed she was helping her son. But over time, she realized that Thomas no longer saw it as help. He saw it as an obligation. Then, one day, Thomas called again. "Mom, can you come over and watch the kids this afternoon? I have an urgent meeting." Margaret held the phone. In her mind, she recalled the many times she had canceled plans with friends, put her hobbies on hold, and rushed to help her son without ever hearing a word of thanks. This time, she decided to do things differently. She took a deep breath and gently replied, "I already have plans today, sweetheart." There was a long silence. This was the first time Thomas had ever heard his mother say no. "But, Mom, I really need your help." She remained calm, without anger or blame, and simply repeated, "I understand, but I already have plans. I'm sure you'll find a way to manage." That day, Thomas had to figure things out on his own. At first, he wasn't happy. But over time, he began to appreciate his mother's time more. He learned to ask politely instead of making demands. He started expressing gratitude whenever she helped, rather than taking it for granted. And most importantly, he began to treat his mother with genuine respect. Why are boundaries so important? If you don't respect yourself, your children won't learn to respect you. If you always say yes, your children may believe you have no needs or personal desires of your own. When you learn to say no at the right times, your children will understand that your time and well-being are valuable and deserve respect. A parent who is exhausted, overworked, and constantly sacrificing is not a happy parent. Setting boundaries helps protect your energy, emotions, and personal life. But boundaries do more than just protect you. They also teach your children how to treat others in life. When your children see you respecting yourself, they will learn to respect their colleagues, partners, and those around them. How to set boundaries without damaging the relationship. If you've never set boundaries before, start with small steps. Take time for yourself without feeling guilty. If you have personal plans, stick to them instead of canceling them the moment your child needs you. Learn to say no gently but firmly. Instead of saying, "You always expect me to do everything for you," try saying, "I'm happy to help when I can, but I already have other plans today." Hold your ground, even if your children aren't happy about it. Your children might not like it when you start saying no, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means they need time to learn how to respect your boundaries. Remember, setting boundaries doesn't push your children away. It teaches them that love must come with mutual respect and balance. But here's something even more important. If you want your children to respect you, have you set the right example for them? Have you ever asked yourself, am I respecting my children in the same way I want to be respected? Because respect isn't a one-way expectation. It's something you must demonstrate first if you want to receive it in return. And that leads us to the next lesson. How to become a role model for your children, teaching them respect through the way you treat them. Lesson number 5. Be the example. Show respect to your children first. Why do some parents naturally earn their children's respect while others struggle with being ignored or taken for granted? The answer is simple but often overlooked. Respect is not something you can demand, it's something you have to build. Many parents believe that just because they gave birth to and raised their children, respect and gratitude should come automatically. But reality doesn't work that way. Respect doesn't come from obligation, it comes from feelings, from love, and from how you treat your children every single day. So if you want your children to respect you, ask yourself, have you truly set the right example for them? James' story, when respect changed everything. James, a retired factory worker, once looked forward to spending more time with his children and grandchildren. In his early retirement years, he imagined frequent visits, meaningful conversations, and quality time together. But things didn't turn out as he had hoped. The phone calls became less frequent, the visits felt rushed, and his presence seemed less significant. At first, he felt deeply hurt. He felt abandoned, like he no longer mattered to his children. But instead of blaming them, he asked himself, have I really been the kind of father my children would want to spend time with? And then, he made a decision to change. The next time his son visited, instead of complaining, "You never come home anymore," he greeted him with a warm smile and said, "I'm so happy you're here. I made some homemade cookies. Let me get you some." When his daughter forgot to call him for weeks, instead of making her feel guilty, he sent her a simple message, "Hope you're doing well. Call me when you have time. I'd love to hear from you." When his children were busy with their own lives, instead of resenting them, he took the initiative to send small gifts, thoughtful messages, and reminders that he loved them, without expecting anything in return. At first, his children barely noticed. But over time, they started to see his patience, kindness, and warmth. And then, the phone calls became more frequent. The visits felt less like an obligation and more like something they genuinely enjoyed. All because of one simple truth: James chose to show respect first, instead of merely expecting it from his children. Respect is a reflection your children learn from you. Parents can teach their children many things, but one of the most powerful lessons is this: children learn how to treat others by watching how their parents treat them. If you want your children to listen to you, show them that you also know how to listen. If you want your children to respect you, show them that you respect their thoughts, feelings, and individuality. Think about it. Have you ever interrupted your child because you assumed you knew better? Dismissed their emotions, thinking they're too young to understand? Forced them into doing something without considering how they truly felt? If you've done any of these, your child is likely to mirror that behavior back to you. But if you change, if you show them that respect is something given before it's received, your child will reflect that behavior right back at you. So, where do you start? Try making small but meaningful changes. Listen to your child the way you want them to listen to you. When they speak, stop what you're doing, make eye contact, and genuinely listen, without interrupting or judging immediately. Respect their space and their time. If they're busy, don't guilt them into spending time with you. Let them come to you on their own instead of pressuring them. Use positive language instead of guilt-tripping. Instead of saying, "You never come visit us anymore," try saying, "We really miss you. Let's plan a time to meet when you're free." Show genuine care instead of just expecting attention. Send a kind message without expecting a reply. Give them a thoughtful book, a heartfelt letter, or a small, meaningful gift. Be the kind of person your children want to spend time with. If you live an interesting, independent, and fulfilling life, your children will want to be around you, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely enjoy your company. Respect cannot be demanded, it must be earned. Do you want your children to spend time with you because they genuinely want to, not because they feel they have to? Do you want a parent-child relationship free from pressure and resentment, but filled with love and mutual appreciation? Then start with yourself. Because how you treat your children today is how they will treat you tomorrow. And if you found this message helpful, go ahead and like this video now. Who knows? A simple action like this might help spread this important message to other parents who need to hear it. Now, tell me, what do you think is the most important factor in building mutual respect between parents and children? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, earning back your child's respect isn't a battle, it's a journey that starts from within. You cannot force love or respect through words or demands. But you can inspire it by living a life worthy of admiration. When you remain calm instead of reacting with anger, your child will listen more. When you stop waiting for them to reach out and start living fully for yourself, they will naturally come to you. When you set clear boundaries, your child will learn to appreciate your time and energy. And when you become a model of respect, your child will reflect that respect in the way they treat you. The parent-child relationship is not set in stone. You have the power to change it, starting with how you treat yourself and your child today. So, are you ready to apply these principles in your life? If you feel ready to make a change and build a better relationship with your child, comment 9. If you're still reflecting and want to learn more, comment 0. And don't forget to like and share this video if you found it valuable. Who knows? A small action from you might help another parent find the answers they've been searching for. See you in the next video.